What's happening, everybody, and welcome to this new episode of the Endless Celts podcast. You may notice a couple of things that are a little bit different. Again, today, Stephen's not hosting, so that duty's fallen to me today. So this is co-host John who's speaking. This is a Euro 2020 special regarding Scotland's obviously participation in the Euros for the first time in a major competition since 1998. Sure, something that we're all excited about, so we're going to be covering that here. And today I'm joined by almost the full panel, just barring Stephen. I'll just come to you all individually. Ross, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good, John. Thanks very much for having me again. Very excited about the Euros.
Yep, no, definitely. William, yourself, how are you doing, mate?
I'm very well, mate. Thanks. How are you? I'm buzzing for the Euros. Absolutely buzzing at my tree.
I'm the exact same, man. I'm looking forward to getting into this as well. Franny, what about yourself? Welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks for having me again, John. But I'm buzzing for the Euros as well. But as you might find out, I'm a wee bit of glory hunter when it comes to Scotland.
That's fair. And Anthony, welcome to the show, mate. How you doing?
I'm doing good, mate. Sorry I'm an hour late, but I'm like a coiled spring for the Summer Championships. I cannot wait, my man.
There you go. Good to hear it. Good to hear it. Just before we continue as well, just a wee congratulations to our man Anthony who passed his exams today. He's had a few jars, so we'll see how he gets on, but it should be a good laugh. Congratulations, Anthony. I'm sure we all sort of share that though.
Thank you very much, mate. I am suitably pissed and suitably ready to talk all things Scotland at the Euros. I cannot wait. But it's been a good day. The sun is shining. Scotland are at the Euros. The tenants that I was at the pub at was getting poured well without a head. It's all good, my man. It's all good.
Good stuff, mate. Good stuff. Well, on that note, then let's just get right into things. So obviously, as we're all aware, Scotland recently qualified for the Euros, and for the first time since 1998 are now participating in a major international tournament. So what we want to do in this episode is just cover off as an extravaganza. We'll continue as the matches progress and things like that. We'll cover those as well. But for this episode, we just want to touch on a few other things just relating to Scotland as a whole. So, first of all, I just want to come to Scotland games in general. I'm sure we've all got a moment that we remember Scotland playing in that sort of stuck with as a favourite game, so to speak. So, Anthony, I'll come to you first, mate. Is there a favourite? Have you got a favourite Scotland memory, a game or something that sticks with you?
There's so many, John, and I must admit, I feel like a bit of a fraud right now when I'm in the same discussion with guys like Willie, who are absolute dyed in the wool Scotland fans. They guys like Willie and Niall they've been there through all the hard times. And maybe a bit like what Frank was saying, feeling a bit like a fraud. But when I always remember one of the most memorable Scotland games is the place we're all going to be watching it on Monday is the Grange. I always remember when my big sister Tracy ran the pub. It was the Scotland-Italy playoff going for the Euro 2008 qualification. Now, it's maybe a random game to pick considering the heartache that followed, but I just remember the whole build-up. We were all in the pub from about 10:30, 11 o'clock that morning, and the place was absolutely packed with about an hour to kick off. And when you actually think Scotland going up against Italy, but actually ordering a pint as if to say, "I we're going to do it today." You were actually full of the bravado as if to say, you know, one of the most successful European, out with Germany, the most successful European nation in terms of international achievements. But we were full of the bravado and thought, we're going to do it. Unfortunately, we just pulled up a wee bit short. But I just always remember going in that morning to our Tracy's and the place being absolutely jam-packed at around 11:30. Everyone in there to watch Soccer AM. Back in the day when Soccer AM was actually something worth tuning in for, by the way. And everyone was just sort of around like, we can do this today. Everyone was full of hope. Everyone was full of that belief. And as the record shows, we came up a wee bit short. But everyone always remembers that how close we were, how close we came to ending at that point. 10 years of hurt. A generation's passed since then, Willie, John. And I just think you can't actually even really process that, to think that the time that's passed from 98 to 2008 and 2008 to 2021 is actually longer. We are going to have an absolute festival of pride and joy and achievement when this tournament gets underway. I cannot wait for Monday. Monday is going to be one of the most joyous occasions that any Scotland fan will ever have. I'm buzzing. I'm absolutely buzzing. Like I say, I've actually picked one of the most deflating achievements ever as a Scotland fan as one of my most standout games. But I know that come Monday, it'll all be worth it. Everything, all the years, all the literal decades of hurt, will all be worth it come Monday. And I cannot wait, my man. I cannot wait.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like you say, it's 1998 was the last, France 98 was the last time Scotland appeared at an international, a major international tournament. And we're now 2021, and we're making our first appearance again. And you're quite rightly, Anthony, like you say, it wasn't a game that many people would consider memorable or their best, but it's the sort of memories you have of certain days and things like that stick with you. And I can certainly remember the game and the disappointment after it. But no, that's absolutely fine, mate. Thanks for that. William, what about yourself? You got a favourite game or anything that sticks with you in particular?
It's a tough one. I've basically, we've not had many memorable games in the past however long. There's been a few. I mean, obviously the France McFadden's wonder goal and stuff like that. But there's always two that stick out in my mind, and I was still fairly young. But the first one was the last game in the qualifiers for the '98 World Cup. I remember sitting watching with my dad, and there was I think there was 3 years that could have went through at the time. But if we won our game, then we made it, and we played Latvia. And I'm pretty sure Hampden was getting redeveloped at the time. So the games were getting played. They was getting played all over Celtic Park, Ibrox, etc. This was at Celtic Park, which made it obviously a little more special. And just when Kevin Gallagher scored, I can remember the elation. It's it was pretty early on. I was trying to think how old I would have been, about 12 or so, and just the elation, much like the extravaganzas we spoke about, and Rogic's goal in that cup final. Just it's the same sort of feeling. And at that time, I was still fairly young, so it wasn't like what it is now, where it means so much more for us to get to a finals. But I just remember that being a special moment. And then the biggest game that sticks out in my mind is the first game of that World Cup, us playing the yellow of that mighty Brazil side that boasted Ronaldo and Romario, and it's just stupendous talent. And we were pretty unfortunate, to say the least. We lost a slack goal. I'm pretty sure it was a big defender, St. Paul or something. St. Paul at the front post, but for the corner for them. But there was about 3 of defenders, and Craig Burley ran about him, and not one of them picked him up. And then we got the penalty, and then we were so unfortunate with that own goal. But at the same time, as the Tartan Army always do, just pure elation and celebrations just to be there playing this calibre of team. That game especially reminds me of that fact that it doesn't matter if we're getting beat or we're just, it's just a party. Like Tony says, this next week is just, I can't remember the last time I was this excited about football, because I'm just so excited for us to go and challenge these teams and be in a major finals again and just create more of these memories. I'm hoping there's younger generations that was like me back then in '98 watching this team, and they've got these memories ingrained, because it's just a special thing for me.
No, you're absolutely right, mate. I remember I was about 14 back when the France '98 started, and 13, 14-year-old. And for me personally, that opening Brazil game is my earliest memory. Scotland at a major international tournament and one of my most memorable games as well. And like you mentioned, good account of ourselves at the time. That was, if no the best international sides on the planet. The talent in that team was unreal. I'm sure there were favourites going into it as well. And we opened up the tournament against them, and to only get beat 2-1 was, I think we're still celebrating. If I was old enough to drink, I'd have been out of the pub with everybody else and loving it. But like you said, it was, we gave a good account of ourselves in that game, and that for me, I agree with you. For me, that opening Brazil game with France '98 was my most memorable. Ross, what about yourself? What's you got a favourite Scotland game and a favourite memory?
Oh, aye. I mean, obviously you've got, as Wally touched upon, the win in Paris, McFadden scoring, and we beat them. I'm sure it was in the same campaign. We beat them back to back, 2 amazing games. We also had a very good 1-0 victory in a playoff against Holland at Hampden. I mean, the less said about the return leg, the better, because I think we got beat. I think it was 5 or 6-0. But the one game sort of going a wee bit further back that stands out for me was, again, incidentally, it's a bit of a pattern with Scotland, a 1-0 victory. It was over Sweden at Ibrox. It was a World Cup qualifier in 1996. John McGinley got the winner against a Sweden side that boasted the likes of Martin Dahlin, Stefan Schwarz. Henrik Larsson was on the bench that day, I'm sure. They had Kenneth Anderson. They had a plethora of good players, very good players. And Scotland that day were obviously, albeit they were at home, they were massive underdogs. But Colin Hendry and Colin Calderwood were the 2 centre halves in that period for Scotland, and that day they were colossal. And as a partnership in that period for Scotland, they were absolutely formidable. At that time, Scotland didn't have a great choice of strikers, if you like, but their defence was very good, and they were always very solid at that time. But I mean, the goal itself, it was sort of like a half. I don't know if you remember it yourselves, but it was sort of like a half-hearted ball for Tom Boyd, diagonal, but it was along the ground, and it somehow evaded 2 Sweden defenders and found its way through to John McGinley. And I mean, he was sort of running away from goal towards the right, and under pressure, he sort of chopped it back across Thomas Ravelli, and it bobbled in. I don't think he hit it kind of unexpectedly, and it bobbled in, and it was just great. I just remember, I think I was sitting in my bedroom myself, and I was just jumping about the room. It was just a game that always stuck with me. And at that time, Sweden were a great team. They'd actually, I think they'd finished either 3rd or 4th in the '94 World Cup. So that tells you, I think it was 4th. That tells you where they were as a nation in a footballing sense at that time. And for Scotland to, I mean, I don't think, in fact, wait a minute, if that was '96 World Cup qualifier, that would have been to qualify for France '98. So, I mean, that victory propelled them on to qualifying for that tournament. It was just remember, it was an outstanding game, and it was at Ibrox. Obviously, Hampden was maybe getting renovated at the time, and whatever you say, it's a very good venue, Ibrox, for a football match, and the Tartan Army were in full voice that day, and it was just a great memory for me.
That's perfect, man. It's not a game I remember, but like you say, I was still obviously 96. I was about 10, 11-year-old, depending when the game was, and so it's not a memory that I've got personally. But I mean, that's what it's all about. It just comes down to things like that, with moments that you remember, things that stick with you, and like you say, even just being yourself in your room watching it, that memory stuck with you, and you celebrated it yourself and everything else. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Francis, what about yourself, mate? Where do you stand? What you got? What's your favourite game, favourite memory?
I could go with obvious and go with the game that's got us to this championship, but similar to like, I mean, Brazil sticks out for me as well, the 2-1, because I can just remember my dad. I got sent to school, but my dad made sure I didn't make school. I ended up at East Watford Community Centre to watch the game. My dad was like, "You're no missing it," but just because I think another one that really stuck out for me was the 2-2 against England, where Griffiths scored the 2 free kicks. I can just remember being in a packed Westgate in Las Vegas watching that game. God knows what time it was, but it was absolutely brilliant. It was actually fun enough for the Celtic fans because we were at the convention, but that's one that kind of sticks out for me. Just more down to location, because you're over in America just watching a game that's getting played back in the UK and that. So the 2-2 game sticks out for me quite well.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine watching that with a lot of Celtic fans in Las Vegas would be probably quite the atmosphere.
I definitely good, like.
Yeah, I can imagine. I definitely remember that 2-2 game. I think we can all agree as well that their last minute, right to the very death, equaliser.
Glorious failures again.
I know, Scotland to a T. But they took Griffiths free kicks. I remember I was trying to remember. I was in Edinburgh. I can't remember where I was. I'd had a bit to drink, but I just remember the cheers and drink was flying. Like when Griffiths' second goal went in, and we thought we'd had it in the bag. Just what an absolute moment that was. Just want to go into other favourites, so to speak. And this is come back to you first, Anthony. Obviously, Scotland isn't known for producing talent year in, year out. We've had some great players over the years, but we've had some bad players as well, as Ross alluded to, one of his favourite memories. Sometimes you had a couple of great players in defence, but nothing else up front, and vice versa. And as we've seen, we've struggled to sort of qualify for major international tournaments for almost 25 years. So, Anthony, just coming to you first. Two-part question: have you got a favourite ever Scotland player and manager?
Oh, good question, John. Favourite ever player, favourite ever manager. I would say purely because you have to sort of. I'm assuming that the question is based on the sort of time that we've sort of watched the team play. I have to say, James McFadden would definitely be up there. He was an absolute maverick, and it's an absolute crime, really, that he didn't actually get to represent us in a Euro finals. I think, if we'd have qualified for Euro 2008 or World Cup 2010, James McFadden would have been our absolute talisman. James McFadden is not the greatest player that will ever lace up a pair of boots, but he was, at that time, just our poster boy. So, in terms of who I've seen play, I would probably say, out with maybe the current team that's qualified, I would give it to James. In terms of Scotland manager, well, again, there's not many to choose from. Do you choose Walter Smith, who then the minute Rangers came calling went straight back in? Do you pick Craig Levein, who decided 4-6-0 was a good formation? Do you pick Alec McLeish, who got two shots at it and messed it up twice, or do you just pick the most obvious candidate, who is Steve Clarke? Steve Clarke, no matter whatever he does in the years to come, will always be the guy that ended 23 years of hurt. So there's only one candidate in terms of manager for me. Steve Clarke got Scotland, apart from after Craig Brown. After Craig Brown, we have to actually realise that 23
I
years.
was going to say
23 years. 2 generations have passed without our national team representing themselves at either a European Championships or a World Cup. It's actually mind-boggling when you think of it. Had this question been asked a few months ago, it would have obviously been Craig Brown. But I think no matter whatever you think of the man, it's got to be Steve Clarke. Steve Clarke is the man he will go down in history as the man that ended all that pain. And all I can wish him is every success in the tournament ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a good shout. I like the choice of McFadden as well. Like he says, he wasn't the best player, so to speak. He wasn't certainly not the most gifted player you've ever seen. But some players, just when they pull on their country's jersey, just seem to turn it on, and they certainly can cement themselves in people's hearts. And I would agree with you personally as well with Steve Clarke. The ending that 23-year hiatus for major international tournaments certainly puts him up there. And sort of, despite the fact he's only been in the job a short term, he's sort of cemented his position in the sort of national team history. William, what about yourself, mate? Player manager?
Yeah, it's no brainer for me. McFadden throughout the years, just to echo everything Tony said there. I mean, there's many players that have obviously just with the Celtic connection, the Lamberts and KT in the current situation and stuff like that now. But McFadden, it's hard to say carried that team because we never qualified or won anything. But we got so close on several occasions, and the reason we got so close was because of that one man. I mean, I know we had a team and we had decent talent, but I'm pretty sure there was a poll on greatest Scottish players recently, and I'm McFadden, I'm pretty sure was in the top 3. There's no denying what he's done for the squad, and I think, like Tony said, it's an absolute crime that he's never made a major finals. My heart breaks to see when, and you know what, he doesn't even care. See, when you watch him and his punditry now, and you see him celebrating, he eats, sleeps, breathes Scotland, and for him pulling on that shirt was the greatest achievement in football, and rightly so. I know people have different opinions, and I'm a very patriotic man, and if I was talented enough to play football and I had and somebody gave me the option and it was a Scotland cap or a Champions League winners medal, I would take the Scotland cap all day long. And I think McFadden was the same, and I think that showed. And all my greatest memories of Scotland over the past 20 odd years, I know there's been no major tournaments, but all my greatest memories have come from magic by a certain James McFadden. So it's a no-brainer for me with a player. With the manager, I obviously Clark's massive, Craig Brown and stuff, but if I'm talking about my favourite, just because it's got to be Strachan, just because he's Gordon Strachan. I thought he worked wonders with the team. He got us right up the coefficients, and obviously his media work, his interviews are just class. And I can't remember the time he was on, and he was like, he swore, I think he says, what the fuck's going on? You got to hurry up so we can get this interview done or something. I was all over social media. Don't think I've laughed this hard in my life. What a personality, and so I think I would go with Strachan on the manager just as a personal favourite.
Yeah, that's a great choice as well. I think Strachan would probably be up there in the top 3 for me as well. But again, like he's mentioned, it's all just personal preference at the end of the day, and it's the kind of memories you have of these guys, and your sort of your life, and the how you've sort of you obviously, William, well-known Scotland fan amongst us. We all know you to be a sort of diehard Scotland fan, certainly more so than me. But you, like you mentioned, it's all just comes down to personal sort of favourites. So it's interesting to get everybody's sort of view and see where they are. Ross, what about yourself? Where would you sort of put? What's your top manager and top player?
Well, first of all, can I just say I'm a die-hard Scotland fan too, by the way.
That wasn't any disrespect.
I don't want that to get lost in the podcast here.
The lad who loves the land.
Aye, but I mean, I think we can all agree that James McFadden is the number one. Certainly, in, like, say, all our lifetimes, if you like, or live in memory. But I mean, I think I have to, dare I say it, I think I have to give a shout out to Kenny Miller. I think
Totally agree, Ross.
What he gave to Scotland over the years is incredible, and him and McFadden played with the passion for the country that I imagine I would play with. He scored some massive goals for Scotland. Now, for me, McFadden is the favourite, but we've touched on him, so I'm just sort of alluding to Miller. He came up with some big moments. I'm sure he scored the goal in the game that you were talking about, Anthony, earlier on there against Italy.
Yeah.
Well, I think we lost.
Absolutely.
Was it 1-1 or did we lose 2-1 that night? I can't remember.
Sorry, Ross. On that day when we lost to Italy, it was the equaliser was scored by Barry Ferguson.
Aye.
So we're along the same tracks.
He definitely scored against Italy in a game. It obviously wasn't that one. I can't remember what game it was, but
Scotland Die Hard, buddy.
Very good. Over the piece though, Kenny Miller's been outstanding for Scotland, and he can't be ignored. But as regards a manager, for me, I mean, he's alluded to Clark, and he for what he's done and brought to Scotland for this year is totally amazing. It can't be ignored. But for me, it's got to be Craig Brown. He took us to Euro 96 and France 98. He was the last manager to do so until now, obviously. And he was unlucky not to be the first man to lead the country out of a group in a major tournament.
Yeah.
But for, I think it was one Dutch goal. His achievements in his tenure as Scotland manager is, for me, unrivalled in my lifetime. And I mean, let's face it, every single one of us to a man have to hold their hands up and admit they too have sung sectarian songs down the phone to an estranged lover.
See if we would have got us to the last 16, they could have done a second verse or not, mate, honestly.
Had to get in there, Craig McGregor.
Absolutely. Outstanding. It's perfect. No, I think, I mean, Craig Brown is obviously a shout. I think a lot of us, especially younger guys who are coming up, they'll remember that. But like you mentioned there, he took us through the Euros at 96 and 98. He always, teams always performed relatively well, and we were unlucky not to progress further than we did. And you're right, Kenny Miller, a fantastic servant for Scotland. And I think it's one of the things as well. I mean, obviously this is a Celtic podcast, and we know how, or generally what our feelings are towards Kenny Miller at club level. But when it comes to the national team, I'm sure we can all agree, you put all the sort of allegiances aside, and you support the team. So it's good to see that you've always you put him up there and you rank him up there, because like he says, what he done for Scotland was phenomenal. He played for the jersey. He never let up. And Franny, finally, just coming to yourself, have you got where do you start with your favourite player, favourite manager?
The two players that jumped out to me were Kenny Miller and McFadden, simply like what William and Ross and I've touched on. It's once they seemed to put that jersey on, it seemed to make them 10 times the player they actually were at club level, and it seemed to mean everything. But for me, it had to be McFadden, just for the maverick sort of style about him, the way he just knew it meant the world to him to play for Scotland, and how he always rose to the occasion pretty much in that. So yeah, just it's not really much more you can say about him, what guys like Wally and Anthony haven't said and stuff. And I'm the same as Ross. Like manager wise, Craig Brown for me. I mean, Strachan was going places, I think, with Scotland, and then Stevie Clark looks like he's got us to a major championship, but he's got us playing a style. The players seem to believe it. He's got a system that gets Tierney and Robertson and stuff that works. But yeah, it has to be Craig Brown for me. But that's again, it's just an age thing. He was a guy that was getting us qualifying for major event tournaments and stuff when I was younger. So Craig Brown and McFadden for me.
Excellent.
By the way, John, can I just say I have to get this guy in as well, because he's just popped into my head. John Collins for me, I thought.
He was.
Whatever you say about that guy as a coach and stuff nowadays, he was absolute class.
As a player.
It was way, way, way before his time.
I
loved him at club and country, and he still obviously got that mentality, and it doesn't sit well with the modern day player, and certainly maybe guys for Scotland, his coaching style, and he's probably too strict for how we are. But what a player he was, by the way. Technically,
Absolutely.
He was
outstanding.
my other. He would have been my other pick, Ross, mate. Him and I
he was-
always mind. See Kevin Gallagher back in there as well. He used to score. He scored some crucial goals for us.
Oh,
Always sticks in the memory. But John Collins was just, and the midfield at that point was Ryan Burley and that as well. They were all
really good players.
all
Like,
good players, man.
Ben Collins was ahead of his time when you think about it.
Oh,
Big time.
Just the fitness
way,
and
way
things
ahead.
like how, like the sports science side of things, he was way ahead of all
you
Definitely.
didn't at the time. You didn't go to Monaco if you're
Nah,
shite.
no.
You know what I mean,
that. Exactly.
they were a top team at the
Top team
time.
man.
Absolutely. No, Collins is a shout, and I've got another one for you to see how you feel about this. It's another player.
Didn't
That's
say
like,
Laxal.
That popped in my head, but I didn't want to say it.
I'm just going to pretend you didn't say that, Franny. So the
God.
other player that I was going to throw out, and this is one for me that stood out, and that again, no necessarily the best player technically, but what he done in a Scotland jersey, he put himself on the line constantly. He played for the jersey. He would just never say die. He'd throw himself at everything. Was Colin Hendry, and
Aye.
like you remember, just watching him defending. Remember that time where he split his skull, on him? And it just he put his body and everything on the line just to do his job, and I'll never forget that as how he was as a player for Scotland. So I thought I'd throw his name out as well as I mentioned, because I think he
Good shout,
definitely
mate. Good
deserves to be up there.
I agree with that, mate. Aye.
Moving on, still sticking to the sort of female favourites, and this one might be a little bit more difficult. It might not, actually. I think a lot of us have probably got a similar thing in mind, but it'll be interesting to see where we go. I'm going to come to favourite Scottish goal that you've seen. What is the best goal you've seen for the Scotland national team? Anthony, coming to you first, what would you say?
It's one of those questions, John. We're not exactly, spoilt for choice, to be fair. Even, goals in general, we're a wee bit starved of. But when I think of one of the all, if we're only sort of putting it on ones that we've seen live or at least witnessed on the television, I would imagine if it was my dad or previous generations, it would probably be Archie Gemmell. But I'm purely focusing on the ones that we've witnessed live. There can only be one winner. I'm sorry, unless maybe if we'd beat England that day and we hadn't drawn, it would have been one of the Griffiths free kicks. But I'm sorry, if you hit one for 35 yards away from home against France and you don't win first place in this category, then I don't know what you have to do. James McFadden's goal against France was incredible, and the thing is, there is no debate on whether he one of those ones where he meant it or, was it a lucky deflection. But James McFadden hit a shot against the French goalkeeper from 35, 40 yards with the full intention of scoring a goal at that moment, and he scored, and he gave us every opportunity at that point to qualify, which we ultimately sadly didn't do. But in terms of goals I've seen as a Scotland fan, nothing even comes close to that for me. So James McFadden against France for me.
As I say, it's just one of the questions. I suspect that everybody's probably going to say the same, and it wouldn't really surprise me at all. But it'd be interesting to see if there is a favourite goal that you've got, not necessarily the best that you've ever seen, but a favourite goal. Was there a particular moment?
I must admit, John, my views on that are perhaps tainted by the fact that the Scotland-England game, the 2-2 game, where Griffiths scored the 2 free kicks. Admittedly, I didn't actually see the game that day. I didn't see the match live because I was working. So I can't say, had I been in the pub that day, I'd have been as, mental as the rest of the guys. Yeah. But just purely,
you would be
what
the
I remember that night when James McFadden hits one for 40 yards and scores, it was incredible. It was incredible.
It was absolutely incredible goal, and I think we'd all be in agreement that it's the best goal that we've seen. But just coming to yourself, William, I mean, I'm assuming you'll say the same about the McFadden goal as Anthony alluded to. Absolutely fantastic, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a goal better. But is there a favourite goal for yourself? Is there a goal that sort of sticks in your mind?
It's got to be the goal in Paris. I mean, it is the best, and it probably is my favourite. I mean, the strike's ridiculous, but the first touches even. Zidane brings that down, you're thinking, geez, and McFadden, he's taken it for the park. He's brought it down and the ball's not moved. It's ridiculous. But I have got another. I mean, McFadden's. You could have a top 5 just McFadden goals. Honestly, there was the goal against the Dutch that Ross was on about earlier as well for the corner. It was what a goal, man. He actually takes the corner. It comes back out and it's still in the box, and he's the one that goes and wins it. His determination to win that and then put it away. But the one the goal in Paris is my favourite. But this one is always I don't know if you remember it was against Macedonia. McFadden again, and somebody's won the ball at centre half. It's kind of popped up, and McFadden's took it in his own half. He's beat one boy. And admittedly, it's not great defending. He beats another, and then there's 3 come towards him at once. And he nutmegs one of them and just waltzes through the 3 of them, and then rounds the keeper and just taps it in for his own box. If Messi done it, they'd be talking about it for years to come. It's just a wonder goal.
I know the exact one you're on about, mate. It was
an absolute hero.
So
that one was sticking in my mind. Aye, the boy had everything. That's why I know we'll touch on the squad later, but I know that's a reason why I would have had Griffiths in the squad. There's nobody in that squad that could do what McFadden did in Paris that night, but I believe Griffiths is the type of player, as he showed against England, that did have that in his locker. McFadden, it doesn't matter if he could have been playing the worst game of his life. All he needs is one chance and one turn for 30 yards, and he's going to have a go. And we've always got a chance. The boy was just different class. I would have loved to have seen him at Celtic by McFadden.
He was a player that was linked with us a couple of times, was he not?
He was.
Aye, but like you says, I don't think we're going to get the same answer for Ross and Franny as well regarding the goals. But I will come to you anyway, just to see what you said. Is there a favourite goal yourselves for Scotland, Ross?
Aye, I mean, as they've all touched on, that it can't be ignored. The McFadden one in Paris, an incredible goal. But I mean, just to go off of that a wee bit, whether it was a wee bit like the Kenny Miller one, was it my favourite goal? But just to touch on something else, the McCoist goal against Switzerland at Euro '96.
What a strike, man!
I mean, he missed a few that day that he would normally have taken by his standards, but the one that one that he got was absolute quality. A lovely 1-2 with McAllister, and then he just unleashed a pile driver for about 25 yards, straight as a die into the top corner, and there's no keeper now, then, or before that was stopping it. It was a great strike. Maybe not as good as McFadden's, we know that, but it was a beautiful strike. And another one that I really enjoyed, Wally talking about the McFadden goal against Holland there, it was very similar. And it was Sean Maloney's against the Republic of Ireland.
That was a great goal.
A really well worked goal, man. Just the wee short corner, the 1-2, and he just curls it into the far corner. It was a beautiful goal, an absolutely beautiful goal. Cut them open for a corner kick, and curled it into the far corner. Brilliant goal. And that one sticks in my memory as well. But McFadden's is it's a special goal. So it's difficult to top that, but it's nice to touch on other beautiful goals as well.
Yeah, I think it's the team he did it against as well. If he does it against the Faroe Islands, but it's because it's against like the mighty France in Paris. It's just special.
Definitely. And what about yourself, Fanny?
I'll just what Ross done touched on different goals, because it's how can you realistically pick a different one for McFadden, but like Gallagher's goal in the game that William touched on earlier, I thought that was a really good strike for him. If I remember, that was a really good strike. And then, but one that's that, I mean, one that always sticks out to me, going back to like the Brazil, like John Collins' penalty, just because he scored, you're scoring against Brazil at a World Cup, and you're thinking, what if? But then obviously, the John Collins penalty always sticks out for me for some reason. Always sticks out for me, that one.
There was just something about that game, eh? It was like
you're playing the world champions in opening a World Cup, and then
and the fact that you took them almost to the wire.
For one each and that, and you're like, maybe we could actually do
it. Was an own goal that cost us?
Tom Boyd.
He couldn't have done nothing about it, to be fair to him.
Nah, I know.
But it just makes it all that
it's just
harder to take when when you see that, but especially against a team that caliber. But no, I mean they're all fair. Some cracking goals as well that you mentioned out with the sort of James McFadden one. I'll offer you another one, and this one's a wee bit more recent. I don't know whether or not you would say it was up there with the greatest goals, but John McGinn's overhead kick against Austria, and he's right that.
That was a cracker.
Brilliant.
all right.
Brilliant goal,
I think
it's an overhead kick, Franny. Shut your gob.
I think he's it's not a proper overhead kick, but he's kind of fallen back today, man.
Aye, because you could have done it.
I'm not saying I could have done it. I could have
We're
probably
absolutely spoiled for choice with overhead kicks where Scotland players are concerned. Roscoe, I'm going to have to PM you in the group chat about this. Come on.
What?
I mean, I personally thought it was a good goal. He taken it well. I mean, like you say, it wasn't a big flamboyant overhead kick. It wasn't something like Zlatan done. But
no, it was a good. I agree, John. It was a good strike.
I thought he taken it well, and it's something a wee bit more recent. It's sort of, I think most people are more likely to remember, just because it was so recent. But moving on, obviously we're just going to move away from the favourite side of things. But I just want to quickly touch on, obviously, coming into this Euros now for the first time in 23 years. I'm sure we're all buzzing, but just to add to it, you couldn't write this. We get England in the group. What was your reactions to that when you seen who we're going to be playing? Sorry, Anthony, you want to start that off?
Obviously, the first tournament I ever seen, the first tournament that ever got me actually sort of introduced to football, John, was Euro '96. That was the first time I ever, the only thing I loved longer than Glasgow Celtic is Star Wars, which I fell in love with a year before, in 1995. But Euro '96, I was 8 years old, same age as my own son is now, and I was like, Scotland are playing England, and anyone that remember at the time, Snickers were doing those little the shop where if you bought them, you got a couple of Snickers and a couple of collector pogs, I think they were called back then, and you had the gold packets where it was all the crests.
That's right.
I have no idea how I done it. I have no idea how I done it, but I ended up in the first two packets I bought. I had the gold England and the gold Scotland badge. I've no idea how I done it. They're probably still up in the loft somewhere to this day. Scotland v England is, it is the international Old Firm game, regardless of what anyone says, and it's not necessarily a good thing, I would argue either. But Scotland, I can only. It would be unfair for me to talk about it from an England point of view. I can only talk about it from a Scotland point of view. At this moment in time, this country is a divided country. No matter what side of the constitution, no matter what side of the debate you are with regards to the constitutional question, but there is very few things that I would imagine that we can, or at least the very overwhelming majority of us can all unite behind, and that is cheering on Scotland away from home against the old enemy at Wembley. Doesn't matter whether your season ticket is at Celtic Park, Ibrox, Tynecastle, Pittodrie, Easter Road or whatever. I think in a couple of weeks' time we'll all be cheering on Scotland, or the overwhelming majority of us will be cheering on Scotland. Yeah. Like I say, it's not a fixture that covers itself in glory a lot of the time, but we've had a more than our fair share of successes against the old enemy, and when I look at the current squads now, I don't see any reason, with the exception of Harry Kane and perhaps maybe Phil Foden or Raheem Sterling. No matter what the pundits down south may try and suggest, this is not an English side that is teeming with world-class players. And when you look at our players, you know, I always say, you know, England captain Harry Kane, Scotland captain Andy Robertson. How many Premier League medals has Harry Kane won? How many Champions League medals does Harry Kane have? And then ask the same question to our captain. This is not the mismatch that it maybe would have been 10, 15 years ago. Like I say, take away all the, you know, the sort of political divides or whatever. Scotland v England sells itself in terms of, you know, a sort of PR thing. But I do not in any way think we are going down there outgunned. I think that is an England side that are there for the taking. I'm maybe selling us up for a shortfall because, you know, when you look at the two sides in '96, it was maybe the exact same thing. Scotland were not an outgunned side in '96 either, but the arrogance that is coming out of some channels south of the border, as if, you know, Simon Jordan himself has actually said that the English under-21s could beat our Euro 2020 side, is an embarrassment. And anyone putting their quote behind that is embarrassing.
Simon Jordan's embarrassing.
Exactly.
Nah, I agree with what
I like him. I think
he's very, very good.
But
boys, we can agree or disagree with what a lot he says and what he wants, but I would like to think that when he comes away with stuff like that, we can all unite. We can all unite in our, you know, try to hide our laughter in on that. England may well win at Wembley, but I do not believe that it is much of the foregone conclusion that most of the English press says it is. We may well finish bottom of the group, but I don't think. I think a lot of the world's press are in for a shock at what this Scotland side can do at the tournament.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I mean, you can't help but sort of get excited for a game against England, regardless, be it a friendly or be it a major tournament. Like you said, the last time we faced England in a major tournament was Euro '96, and their first Euro appearance since then, we've got them again in a group. So it's definitely a fixture that sort of generates a bit of a buzz, as you said, and certainly one I'm sure we're all looking forward to. But what about you, William? How do you fancy our chances against England?
I fancy us against most, to be honest with you. I think the job that Clark's done, whereas he's made us hard to beat rather than what's going on in the past. We've obviously, I was going to say we've not got an abundance of talent like many other nations, but we've got so much talent in the squad. We shouldn't be fearing anybody, and it's great to hear you hear all the players and the manager and all these press conferences stating they're not here to make up the numbers. And as much as I think that England team does have an abundance of talent in the attack, I don't think they look as solid at the back.
Yeah.
I think we can have a right go at them, and I think we can. I honestly think we can get points out of every game in this group stage. And if I'm not wrong, I think 3 go through from the group stages, so we've got a massive chance of qualifying to go going further into the knockout stages, and hopefully we can get 3 points against the Czech Republic to start off with, and then it's a massive step. But as regards to England, I don't think we've got anything to fear. I think we've showed that. I think they've had better teams in the past. That game, that 2-each game that we should have won, barring that clearance in the last minute, I think that team was probably far better than the England team that we're going to face now. I think again, it's massively overrated going into every major tournament thinking that they're the best team going. I'm not disputing the fact that they've got massive amounts of talent. They have. We've just seen most of them win Champions League medals or be in the Champions League final just weeks ago. But we've got massive amounts of talent as well. Premier League players, and with Steve Clarke at the helm, and like I said, making us hard to beat. I can see us beating them, no problem. Like I say, I don't fear any team. And like I was looking at it the other day, and if we finish in certain places in our group, who we might draw in the knockout stages. And I was speaking to boys at work, and we should hopefully finish here because we'll maybe get a better draw, maybe get a Sweden or something. And I'm like, nah, I'm wanting France's and Belgium's, and I want to see us play these teams. This is what we talked about. Our biggest memories being, we've just talked about us playing Brazil in the World Cup. We got beat, but made a good account of ourselves. You want to see us play the biggest teams. That's why we're here. We've not been to major finals for 20 odd years. Bring it on. I want to play the big teams. Bring on the big names.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right. Had to throw that in there again. Shout out to Stephen. So, no, I mean, you made fantastic points, and I'm firmly in the same sort of side as you, William. I don't think we should be going into this fearing anybody, and we should be playing every single game, looking to win every single game. I'm sure, like many Scotland fans, though, just being at the tournament is celebration enough. And even if we don't qualify through the groups, we're still going to celebrate the fact that we made it, and we're going to enjoy the time in watching us playing in it. But there's every chance, as you says, that we can qualify. And imagine that first time back in the Euros, and then getting out of the group stages again after 23 years of hee-haw. So it would be a fairy tale. We could, I mean, imagine we even done a Greece and just surprised everybody and pulled it out of the bag.
Oh,
might be a bit far-fetched, but again,
I was speaking
to
to Toto's pal in a pub, and he says that it's a certainty.
Yeah.
Certainty that Scotland are going to win it.
But listen, I don't think anyone's seen Greece winning it. Did you?
no.
No, of course we didn't.
It surprised everybody. So I mean, it's possible.
Of course it is. Leicester winning the Premier League, anything's possible.
But what about yourself?
Except for cleaning a sieve.
Right, Ross, what about yourself?
As regards England, the England game itself.
Just Scotland against England in general, really. How are you feeling?
I mean, as the guys have touched on, I don't think we should fear anybody. I think we've got a great chance at taking points for every game. I really fancy that we can beat the Czech Republic. I think we can beat. I think we could. At best, we look to take a draw for the next two games. But England are. I think England are fully top class players. They really are. Harry Kane is world class. Raheem Sterling is world class at times. So there is an element of trepidation, but Scotland have got good players, and if they're all at it, we can give most people a game. So I'm fully confident, and as you said, John, just being there is amazing, and we'll celebrate that. But I want more. I do.
Yeah,
I want us
definitely.
to get to the next stage through the group if we can. But I mean, it's good that we've got England in this, because it floods back some really nice memories for me. For like Euro '96, it sort of parallels with it, if you like, because it's
Some
Wembley
not so
again.
nice memories either.
Aye, I know. I mean, the result wasn't right, but it parallels with it, and I've got a memory that I'll cherish forever. I just remember in '96, getting the portable telly set up in my best pal Chrissy's garden, who he's sadly no longer with us, but his dad done it for us, set it all up, and the sun was splitting the trees, and we just sat in the grass at 12 years old, absolutely buzzing for the whole occasion. And it was just fabulous. And it's just things like that. I mean, okay, we never got the result, but I mean, it's wee things like that stay with you. Scotland at a major tournament can transport you back to great memories and moments like that. And I mean, here's to making more great memories this summer. And that just when I heard that Scotland were going to get England in the Euros at Wembley, that all flooded back to me, and I was like, wow, first time in 23 years, and this is happening again. I was just like, I'll be tipping a wee cap to him and having a drink on him that day. Absolutely.
Well said,
Absolutely,
mate.
Well said,
Brilliant,
aye.
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yep. Francis, obviously, just coming to yourself lastly on this, drawing England in their first appearance in a major competition in 23 years. What was your reaction? What was your thoughts?
You're always, like Anthony said, you're always buzzing to play your rivals, and especially when it comes in like a major tournament. I know, obviously, the last European Championship we qualified, we got them, but obviously that was a while back as well. But it's just like Ross, like England for me are fully top players. Like they're like central defence. I don't think that Harry Maguire, if he isn't playing, I think that's a big miss from him, because like Kyle Walker and Chilwell, I think Luke Shaw's had a really good season. Mason Mount I really rate as a player, and Phil Foden is just I think he's a bit special as well. But just talking like Scotland, like we've got a lot better players as well now, and I don't see why we don't need to go there. Fear it's nothing to loss for Scotland without trying to sound a defeatist type attitude, but every game we should be going to like with no fear and just saying, look, let's go see what happens in that. Because I think like I'm sure I've heard like Croatia and Czech Republic. I think we've got a good record against them recently. Granted, I don't know how recently we've played them, but I think in recent games we've done it. But I think the Czech game's important for me. If we can go off to a winning start, then the next two games for me are a freebie. I think, because I think like William touched on, I think it's 4 of the best third place teams qualify. It might be slightly more. So if you go off to a winning start, you're almost guaranteed of going through. So, but I don't think that I wouldn't say there's nothing to fear against England, because they have got top players, and on their day they could turn anybody over, and they're on their home patch, if you like. I know there's fans going to be there, but I don't think there's any Scotland fans meant to be there. I could be wrong there, but I don't think it's, regardless of the outcome on Monday, I don't think we've any fear going into the England game. Just go for it and have a go if you like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm pretty sure Ross fans across Scotland who are supporting Scotland, these Euros will be in the same sort of mindset. But that's great, guys. But that brings us on to the next thing. Obviously, we've talked about drawing England in the group, and we've got that match to look forward to. But first, we've got the Czech Republic on Monday. And much like we do with other episodes on Endless Celts during the league campaign, I just want to get your sort of predicted lineups. Anthony, how do you think we're going to line up against the Czechs on Monday?
The mix on mute, Anthony.
Unmute your mic, mate. Anthony, your mic.
Sorry, can you hear me, John?
Aye, I can hear you now, mate. Did you get that question there? Aye.
Yeah, heard the question. Sorry, wee technical issue there.
No problem, mate.
I'll be honest. I think that the starting lineup will be very much the same as what started against Luxembourg. To be honest, I think that was maybe the sort of route that Steve Clarke was going down. Get the starting 11 as fit as they can be. And I can't really have any arguments against that. When you look at the starting 11, it would. You obviously we've watched the tournament on the back of having one up front, maybe just one behind. You know, Lyndon Dykes has been the poster boy for that particular formation. But I'm a wee bit old school. I like having 2 strikers up front, and if you can have Lyndon Dykes and Che Adams up front, the 2 of them are a handful. The 2 of them are a threat. If I was in the privileged position that Steve Clarke's in at home, our first tournament in 23 years, I would start with 2 up front, and I would go with the exact same team that started against Luxembourg.
Perfect. And what about yourself, William?
I think he will go with that team, but I would make, if it was me personally in charge, which everybody in Scotland's probably thankful or not, I would make a few changes. So I would go with that formation, the 3 at the back. I would go with Marshall in goal. KTE left centre back. I would go Liam Cooper, who's captain of Leeds in the Premier League week in, week out. and they've done fantastically well this year. So I would have him. I would actually play McTominay on the right hand side of the three. I thought he did well in the qualifiers there, and I mean our midfield's absolutely styled out. So I would like to see him in there. Obviously, Robbo at left wing back, and another one that's a bit left field. We've got these right wing back now, and it's Stephen O'Donnell who's playing there. I know young Nathan Patterson's came in and stuff like that as well. But
The giraffe.
the giraffe. But I would actually, I would stick Ryan Fraser out there. Every time he plays, he's got a goal in him. His delivery's great. He's got an engine. He can get up and down there. He came on against Luxembourg, and I don't know how we didn't. I think there was 2 headers for about 6 yards out that we missed, and they were both from balls in the box for Fraser. And for the set pieces, I think he's spectacular as well. So I would actually have him at right wing back. The two sitting midfielders, I would have Calmack, and I would punt on Billy Gilmore. I think the guy's different class.
Mm-hmm.
He's not playing much, and when he does play, he gets thrown in against Man Cities and just absolutely bosses the whole game. And I know he had a wee cameo against Luxembourg. Again, not the best opposition, but he was only on the park for 20 minutes, and I think he was Scotland's best player. I'd be playing him. I think he's another one that's like, I don't want to put him in the same bracket as Foden and stuff like that, but I think he's another one of these young talents that's going to go on and be massive in the game. So I think you've got to start him. I would have McGinn number 10, and same as Tony, you need to go with 2 strikers. You've got to go with Dykes and Adams, and I think that team would give every team in the group a run for their money. It's full of superb talent, and I've got to say, we bang on about this team and the two world class players that we talk about is Robbo and KT, and how you meant to fit them in the same team. But the last 3 or 4 games, Steve Clarke's found a way. The two of them
totally
absolutely brilliant on that left hand side, and when one goes, one sits. And the goal, the second goal against Holland, showed that the ball in for Robbo for Nisbet's goal was brilliant, and the way they're playing, there's no the fullback doesn't know what to do when one overlaps and the other one goes. I think the way he's got that set up down the left hand side is brilliant, and I reckon we're going to get a few goals for there.
Definitely. That's a really good team as well. Like you say, there's a couple of changes in there for the other game, but certainly a couple that I definitely agree with. What about yourself, Ross? How would you line up?
I would go with a sort of 3-5-1-1 if you like. It's a bit of a funny one. So for me, Marshall's heroics in the penalty shootout were incredible, but I still think Craig Gordon's a better keeper than him.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I would go with Gordon in goals. And it's harsh. It's really harsh because he's got us there. And I realise that Marshall most likely will play because he deserves to play. But are we in the deserving business, or are we in who's the best? So for me, it's Craig Gordon. I would go with a back 3. Hendry, Tierney and Gallagher. I really rate. He probably won't play, but for me, I rate him and I would play him. I would go with a midfield 5, Forrest on the right. I would go with McTominay, McGregor, and I totally agree with Willie. You could make a case for Armstrong, but Gilmore, just like, he dictates a game. He dictates the pace of it. He just controls it with his half turns, and he's bringing guys into play. So I would probably go with him, and then Robertson on the left. Obviously we sort of Tierney and Robertson dovetailing, if you like. So if one goes, the other one sits. They're educated enough, and they realise when one goes, they've done it. And in the last 3 or 4 games, one knows when to cover when the other one's going. And for me, Tierney's more of a threat in the final third than what Robertson is, because he can get it, guys. Robertson's different. in the Liverpool team where he's sort of overlapping and he's getting played in, whereas with Scotland that doesn't happen. So Tierney can be the man that like sort of commands that position, if you like, and takes the reins and pushes on forward and takes guys on, goes at guys. So that would be my midfield 5, and then I would have John McGinn sitting in the sort of 10 role, the hole, if you like, in behind Lyndon Dykes to start with, and then just see how things are going and bring like Shea Adams or Nisbet on, depending on how the game's going. That would be my team.
Perfect. It's actually very, very similar to mine. Believe it or not.
Can I change it then?
But I'll give mine at the end here. But what about you, Franny? What's your lineup?
Well, I've just went a similar formation. Well, it's the exact same formation as William and Anthony, because it's a formation that works for Scotland. Clark's believes in it with the sort of 3-2-3, whatever, or like the 5 at the back, however you want to look at it. So, but I'm in agreement with Ross that I would place Craig Gordon in goals. I think he is our best goalkeeper, but I think David Marshall's going to start. But I'd take Craig Gordon goals in. The sort of back, the 3 central boys, I would have Hendry, Cooper and Tierney. And then either side of them, obviously, Robertson's in. And I like the idea of Ryan Fraser, but I think I would play O'Donnell more just to think more defensive, because I think we'll attack mainly from the left-hand side, the way Tierney and Robertson link up. So just to kind of maybe give us a wee bit cover at the back. And then I think that allows, like with that back three, it allows me to put McTominay in his favoured position. Like, you can't fault the guy for what he done in the qualifiers and stuff, playing it centre half. But I think I prefer him in the middle of the park, and I would put him and Gilmore in. I can't find a place for McGregor, just simply because of how he's not had the greatest season. But I just think Gilmore's a special talent, to be fair. And I'd have McGinn sitting in front of them, then a front to Shea Adams and Big London Dykes. So that'd be my team.
Yeah, another good team. I mean, so based on, obviously, I think everybody's got their own sort of way they line up, but I think we're all fair in saying that any one of you guys' lineups is a strong team, and obviously sets us up well. And I'm pretty sure we can, or I'm confident at least that we might be able to get a result, which I'll get to in a second. But for me, it would be Gordon in goal. I'd take a back 3, Tierney, Cooper and Hendry. And then just on the left, sort of a sort of mid 5, so to speak, I'd take Robertson. On the left, I'd start Forrest sort of on the right side. And then just the 3 across the middle, it would be I'd have Turnbull, McGregor and Gilmore. And just in front of them, I'd have McGinn in the hole, like Ross says, and then Dykes just in front of him. But that brings us on to the...
Sorry, John, see, just to stop there and all.
Uh-huh.
Is it not fantastic that we've got
these options,
great depth in the squad, that we're all having different options, whereas 10 years ago we were struggling to put 11 players together just to put in the park.
Aye, absolutely.
It shows how far we've come in the last however many years.
Yeah, not to criticise your team, John, but I can't believe McTominay's not in it.
Well, but that, I mean, like you says, it doesn't matter. You can chop and change these guys, and I think any one of your teams is a strong lineup, and
I think it just Willie's nailed it. It just shows the depth that we've got in the team.
I think the difference is, see, 10 years ago, if 10 years ago we went to major finals, and for example McFadden got injured, we'd be up shit street without a paddle. If we lost Robertson or McGinn or whatever, there is people there to come in. They obviously might not do as good a job, but there's people that are more than capable of stepping in and filling these shoes, which is fantastic for us.
Absolutely, and like you say, it just shows you how far we've come. But what I want to ask next is obviously score predictions, right? So we'll just quickly run through them. We'll give us the result and your goal scorers, Anthony.
3-1 Scotland. I will take a wee double. I'm going to put my chips in the oven here, John, and say 2 for John McGinn and a late goal by Shea Adams.
Perfect. Ross?
2-0 Scotland. I'll go John McGinn and Nisbet coming on and getting a goal.
Nice. William?
I'm going to go 2-1. Adams to score, and then Ryan Christie's got to come on and score the winner. Because his head's massive.
He's massive.
Love you, Freeman, miss you.
And what about yourself, Franny?
Well, just to continue my positivity, scorelines, I've got to go 2-0 Czech Republic. I'm joking.
What?
I'm joking. No, I'm joking. We're keeping it positive.
I was about to
I'm
cut
2-0
you off.
Scotland. 2-0 Scotland, and then I'm just one each for the strikers. Try to share them for Adams and Dykes.
Perfect. I went 2-0 as well, but Dykes and McGinn. So that pretty much brings us to the end of the
John,
this
can I
first
just
special.
can I just very quickly interrupt before we finish tonight? You asked me earlier what my favourite Scotland memory was, and at the risk of sounding very much like an X Factor finalist, I'm going to say right now, my favourite Scotland memory is something that we've still to live. My favourite Scotland memory is going to come on Monday, because not only are we going to see each other again for the first time in a long time, or Scotland being together for being at a tournament for the first time in 23 years. On Monday, most of us will be back together again for some. We've not seen each other for over a year and a half. We're going to have a few pints together, and it does. The result is almost regardless. So just seeing everybody again, I can't wait till Monday. So all I'll say is my favourite Scotland memory is still to come. I reckon it'll come on Monday, my man, and I'm very confident.
Man.
I am
Good.
very confident that it's going to be 3 points and a win for Scotland on Monday.
Here.
Perfect, mate. Yeah. Well said. Looking forward to it, my man. But like I said, just while I wrap things up, I'm just going to, and this is really for the benefit of people with Scotland who happen to be listening, who we've managed to see through the Endless Celts podcast that we've actually got listeners all across the globe, which is great. But for anybody listening who's no Scottish, I just want a a couple of quick fire questions to you guys, just for a wee bit of fun. So just come to yourself first, Anthony. Quick favourite Scottish meal and beverage.
Favourite Scottish meal and beverage? Well, as an internationalist, my man, I have no interest in anything whatsoever in haggis or whatever. It's a very decent meal, but my favourite Scottish meal is a Faulthouse special spicy chicken pizza.
It is a belter, a shout, to be fair. What about beverage? Scottish
Tenants,
beverage?
mate.
Tenants.
Yeah.
William?
I mean, just a shout out to folk that actually go about their daily lives and go out for a pint, that their daily alcohol intake does not involve a pint of Tenants. I mean, absolute washouts, man.
I mean, if you that was class. I mean, if you don't drink lager, then I think you get a pass. But if you're drinking beer, lager, anything like that, and you're not drinking,
Put it this way,
Tenants,
you either drink Tenants or you're English, mate. You know what I mean?
What about yourself, William?
I think the day of the England game, I think I'm going to have. I'm going to hate to get a big jumbo haggis supper for the chippy, and there'll be a few ice cold Tenants being sunk that night as well. I like a wee dram as well, but it's got to be an ice cold pint of Tenants.
Big juicy. What about yourself, Ross?
Juicy.
Stovies, drifter and batter, Tenants.
And yourself, Franny?
It's got to be just anything and batter, pizza, batter, sausage, batter, fish, batter.
Yeah,
Mars bar.
just
Fuck it,
anything,
put batter on
deep
it.
fried.
Mars bar. Just put anything on it. And then it's got to be Tenants. Got to be the
Aye,
Tenants.
absolutely. So it's Tenants for me as well, and I'm going to side with you here, William. I think a jumbo spicy haggis is the way forward.
Darwin, no man.
So second one, quick, Anthony. What would you pick as Scotland's theme tune for the Euros? Anything you want.
I mean, is that even a question? I mean, I feel like we're at Prime Minister's questions here, Mr. Tomlinson. There cannot be any other tune except, yes, sir, I Can Boogie. And believe me, when we put 3 past the Czechs on Monday, the nick you'll see me boogieing to on Monday is going to be fun to behold. I cannot wait.
What about yourself, Willie?
That's got to be,
Aye.
got to
I
be.
think we're all going to. I think we're all
Aye.
going to be in agreement. Ross, Franny, any changes?
I can boogie 100%. Aye.
Got to be, yeah. I mean, I was thinking about Disco Land, but nah, it's got to be in it. It's got to be Baccara and that.
It's got to be, man.
Absolutely. And lastly, this is for, again, for the benefit of people who are in the face Scotland. Celts. There's a debate whether or not you should wear underwear or no. Anthony,
Who's debating that? Like,
Us.
people who are in the Scottish.
bit ridiculous.
Or
debating
the
this, John?
sort of newer generation. But Anthony, just to ask you quickly, are you free balling or not?
John, let me just sum this up quite quickly.
Here we go.
Any Scottish person that wears any Scots man that wears underwear under his kilt needs his hard drive seized immediately.
Well, I'm going to lock my door then.
Well, you've actually wore pants underneath a kilt.
I will get to my reasoning why.
No pants. No pants.
What's
Why
wrong with you?
Boxers.
I mean, geez, it's same thing. Potato. Geez,
How do you take a piss? Do you stand there with your wee boxers round your ankles when you're taking a piss? Like,
We'll get
Just
to my
lift it
reason
up.
why
You
I've
lift
done
the
them.
kilt up and you get on with it.
Right, so Dunny, free balling or not? Quick.
I mean, I think
What's
we're
up?
first.
Of course you're. Willie.
aye, balls hang low all day.
Ross.
Absolutely should be no underwear, but I like to be cozy.
And Franny.
Well, the first time I wore a kilt.
Sorry, we're getting a bit of a technical issue there. Back to you in the studio, John.
The first time I wore a kilt was at Ross's wedding, and I went free balling. But then I had a wee hang during the night. I was thinking, this is a rented kilt. How many times has somebody else wore this with their balls out?
I did
So
get
that's-
lashed.
The next, aye, but it was in
Franco,
my head. So the
Franco,
next
but
time I had,
just think about it. Just think about it, mate. Imagine wearing a kilt with boxers on, though.
I done it though. I done it the second time round.
Mate, it depends on the boxers. I've got nice boxers.
I like a wee pair of
A
Calvins.
bit after
That it?
boys, but aye, no,
Genuinely-
that's it.
No, I thought Aspel was going to come out with a big red book and get this is your life with Franny's explanation there.
But guys, that's the end of our show. Thanks to everybody for obviously coming on. How do you find it?
Good.
Brilliant, mate. I'm away to listen. I'm away to watch Braveheart in preparation.
What a
I
accent
thought-
Mel
for Monday,
Gibson's
aye.
got in that.
I thought it was right. I think we should record that again.
And obviously, as I said as well, boys, we're going to be covering Scotland. There'll be regular sort of Euro edition episodes for the End of Celts podcast during the course of the Euros. So hopefully we'll have you all back on for them. Anything else you boys want to add just before we go?
Just before we go,
Come
John,
on.
all I'll say is that tonight is Thursday. This is going to be going out on Friday. So before the next time the Endless Celts will release a channel, obviously the first game will be in the history books, and all my drunken antics will be in the history books and all. So I just want to say it's going to be a pleasure seeing you, Willie, and to the other two friends of the show that we're meeting up with beforehand, Tam and Andy. I cannot wait for Monday, man. The first
Me
time
too,
in
buddy.
23 years that we're all going to just be all together to watch Scotland at a major tournament. I cannot wait, my man.
And I'll
It's
turn
going to
up,
be
I'll
an
turn up
absolute
and
belter of a day.
Right,
It's going to
wait.
be the best Monday. I'm going to reaffirm what the Boomtown rant saying. I do like Mondays. I cannot wait.
I knew we all hate to turn up with kilts on, with our boxers on.
Well, but
Just-
listen, if you turn up with boxers on, I'm going to RKO you.
Right, boys. No, that's perfect. Thanks again for coming on. It's been great talking to you. And like I says, sure we're all buzzing for Monday. And we'll speak to you again soon. For everybody else that's listening, thanks for tuning in. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, hit the wee bell, leave us some comments, get involved. We like to have a chat with you guys. If you're listening on Spotify, iTunes, just give us a wee follow to be notified of any new episodes, because all our stuff goes up on all the major streaming channels. And to everybody as well that's just supported us over the past few weeks. Thanks very much. I'm sure all the boys here who have been part of this as well will say the same. We appreciate all the support. We appreciate the interaction on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, just wherever you can find us. But until next time, thanks very much and stay safe and hail hail.